welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. We are going to be doing the astro weather for June the 9th through the 16th, 2024. Make sure you click the bell button below and subscribe to the channel if you guys like this content. Drop me a comment and let me know how you're feeling with this upcoming Cazimi. And make sure you give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Remember, sharing is caring, and any interaction with the channel really helps the channel grow, so I appreciate it. Hello to everybody. Happy Sunday. Hopefully you guys are doing well. We've got a lot going on this week. Obviously, we are going to be touching on the importance of this Sun Cazimi that'll be taking place with Mercury in the sign of Gemini. So if you guys stay tuned to the end of the video, I will be talking about how this will be impacting each and every one of the 12 signs and what messages you're going to want to watch for that will be coming in from Mercury. But outside of that, well, the week starts off a little bumpy. If you guys are watching on Sunday, happy Sunday to all my Sunday crew. But this is a little bit of like a slow your roll kind of day. And we'll get into that as we talk about the astrology day by day. But astro weather is kicking off with a Sun square Saturn. So we're going to feel some challenges, some limitations, some time crunches, and we're going to feel like we have to kind of stop and pause, reflect before we travel, make plans, communicate, and connect with other people. So slow your roll on Sunday, and don't be surprised if you guys have some delays with some stuff. We are also going to see a pretty gnarly Mars in Taurus square Pluto in Aquarius. Things are really heating up, and this can be a rather intense energy midweek. So we'll talk about some of the themes, but definitely the biggest one is power struggles. Mars wants to conquer things, Pluto wants to control, and when we see this square happening between two fixed signs, neither sign is going to want to back down. So particularly intense for those of you guys who have early degrees in the fixed signs. We will see that Mercury Cazimi, and it is buzzing in the sign of Gemini. Likely there is going to be so many opportunities for communication, new ideas, downloads, and feeling a little bit better connected when it comes to how we're communicating with people, when it feels like, you know, we're not really sure how to find the words or how to start something new. This Cazimi can allow us to kind of have a download or a bright idea. And I'm kind of liking the way communication actually gets better, you know, midweek on after this particular point. Just watch for the tail end of the week. We're going to see some fuzzy Neptune squares. Both Mercury and Venus are going to be nuzzling up to each other where they're very communicative about what they love. But this will be happening in the sign of Gemini, so there's always options and choices. And these two particular planets are going to form a square to Neptune at 29 degrees. So there's definitely, a need to be a little cautious when it comes to communications in regards to matters of the heart, financial transactions, and any kind of agreement, because Neptune can distort, it can kind of leave out some important information. It can also be something that is very kind of clouded and confusing. So we'll talk about what may kind of come up with that. So let's go ahead and get into the week. We're going to start with today, which is Sunday the 9th. And as you guys are waking up in the morning, the moon is at home in the sign of Cancer. We'll be here for a couple hours. We're going to see that moon ingress into Leo later in the afternoon. It's going to have a very different flavor. Obviously, when the moon is in Cancer, especially in the late degrees, it's forming positive aspects both to Saturn as well as Neptune. So one thing you're going to notice this morning is that there's just a little bit more of like a cozy vibe. There is much more focus and emphasis on emotions, home, domestic related things. And it's kind of a nice aspect to see the moon coming out of the trine with Saturn and building into a trine with Neptune. Great for like spending time in water, by the pool, meditating, just doing some quiet reflective work, and also feeling pretty comfortable on the home front. Now, as this moon begins to transition into the sign of Leo, we're going to see some stuff that's going to kind of get kicked up a little bit. And obviously, when the moon goes into Leo, we are seeing oppositions to Pluto. So very different vibe later in the afternoon with this ingress. The moon in Leo is bold, creative. It is about romance and having fun. But we're going to see a pretty tricky opposition to Pluto, where there can be some emotional intensity in regards to other people, other groups. Aquarius is friends. It's also about our goals. It's about things that are outside of ourselves when we experience an opposition. And that that moon is also going to square Mars in Taurus. So this is considered a T-square. Okay, so Mars is kind of the focal point. Mars is coming into the opening square with Pluto, where we're going to see some of those kind of, tension-related issues, power struggles, combativeness in the skies. And the moon is triggering this rather early. So you guys might really start feeling the impact of that incoming Mars-Pluto square as a result of the trigger from the moon in the afternoon. Now, the sun rules Leo, right? And so there's another really interesting aspect that's going on in the skies later today. We see the sun in Gemini is forming a square to Saturn in Pisces. So lots of square opposition energy, and these are all energies that are kind of friction, right? There's something that is kind of making us feel like we're between a rock and a hard place, or that there is some kind of challenge to overcome. Saturn is actually going to station at this degree as well. We'll see this later in the month of June. 19 degrees of a sign deals with relationships and partnerships to other people, committed relationships, therapists, counselors, clients. So there is some relational issues in regards to this. So with that sun square Saturn, it's the opening square. And when we see squares happening in mutable signs, it means something is changing. So we're having to kind of combat a change of schedule, a change of belief, a change of ideas. And Saturn is kind of seen as something that kind of holds the line. It's a barrier or a boundary. Saturn in Pisces has been about, making our dreams a reality, but it also can be about isolation, separation, feeling sluggish, tired, under the weather, or unsure. So when we see a square between, the sun and Saturn, I think that the dynamic really is going to impact our self-expression, our relationships, and also sometimes a sense of responsibility. So this transit can bring feelings of, restriction. We can feel a little bit more pessimistic more than usual, insecurities when it comes to our professional life, but also our relationships to other people. Sun-Saturn squares also bring this feeling of being like burdened by responsibilities or encountering obstacles that slow down our progress. So one thing you guys want to be aware of is that during this period, you'll be feeling it kind of probably Saturday, today, and into tomorrow. It's important to be patient, right? Patient and persistent. Saturn delays, but it doesn't deny. So when you're in this period, it's crucial to keep going despite the challenges that you may be facing today. Be wary of giving up too quickly when you're faced with a setback or a difficulty. And so what does that mean when we kind of break it down archetypally looking at Pisces and Gemini? It could quite literally be, well, they didn't call me back, so I assume they're not going, right? If you have plans today, they didn't text me back, they didn't call me, I didn't get a response from them, pick up the phone and call somebody. The Sun, Mercury, Venus in Gemini is really saying, when in doubt, right? Connect, communicate, right? Ask questions, especially when there's miscommunications, because this can be a week where we can feel like there's a lot of misunderstandings as a result of not asking necessary questions. Now, this transit also highlights, I think, a need for clarity and insight. Effective communication. I think that Saturn in Pisces teaches us that sometimes we need to take a step back and kind of assess our current situation to better identify, what it is that we need to overcome or why we're experiencing roadblocks or setbacks or delays. I love Saturn in Pisces for taking time to meditate on something, taking time to kind of think something over, sleep on it, literally, before we say something, initiate a conversation, sign a contract. So if you're kind of feeling agitated by some of the delays in regards to communication and working with other people, ask yourself, am I doing something wrong? How can I better communicate with this person? Do they need some space? Do I need some time? And just take a pause, because I think that if we try to force the Sun square Saturn and we try to get the results that we want today by staying on schedule, by, not being flexible, by not being open-minded, there's enough energy in the skies that do make me feel like there can definitely be some drama and some people who can get kind of like reactionary, especially with that moon, Mars, Pluto kind of square. And people can kind of get agitated and blow up. They can blow up. The other thing you want to think about is when we're having a Saturn Sun square is that, you know, this is, I think, a time for growth and development. So even though we can feel like it's uncomfortable, there can be uncomfortable conversations we have today or uncomfortable kind of situations where we kind of have to say like, hey, this isn't working for me, or, you know, is something wrong? I think that I would embrace the challenges and see these as opportunities to learn and, you know, strengthen your communication skills. So don't be surprised if things kind of don't go as expected today, and when in doubt, communicate. Now that moon is going to, in the afternoon hours, move into, like I said, Leo, and it looks like it's going to first square Mars, so we can be feeling a little bit under the gun emotionally, kind of pressured, and obviously we can see more drama with the moon going through the sign of Leo. And then it'll oppose Pluto by about the PM hours. So those late afternoon time periods kind of going into like dinner time, that's when you're going to feel some of the most intensity. So I would get as much in order and communicate and kind of get everything rolling earlier on Sunday rather than waiting for things to happen over the afternoon, because that's when you can see some of the fireworks taking place. Now, this is going to take us into the 10th. So this is now Monday, and when we wake up Monday morning, the moon is still in Leo. It has now come out of this opposition and square, so that's starting to ease up a little bit. And we're going to see that the moon is going to be making some trines to the North Node. Now, as that moon continues to keep moving through Leo, the only other thing that we're going to see is that the sun in Gemini is now going to be making some sextiles to Chiron. So with Sun sextile Chiron, with Venus sextile Chiron, you know, we have the ability to send the email, communicate, call somebody, and kind of like speak up and maybe heal potential wounds. Venus is still moving very closely with the sun. They're not going to separate for a couple of days here until we see Mercury and Venus kind of move into Cancer. So there still is this feeling of, especially for those of you guys ruled by Venus, my Taurus, my Libra risings, feeling exhausted, feeling tired, or there being just a sense of like burnout when it comes to communication involving finances, relationships, other people. So talking to people this week with that conjunction and the square coming out of Saturn, we can feel a little kind of, run down, tired of having the same conversations and kind of going round and round in circles. Anyway, you're going to want to lean more into the sextile to Chiron. We may be able to kind of heal ourselves through journaling, taking a walk, talking things out. All of these kind of mobile, chit-chatty energies that come from these planets that are in Gemini. Other than that, pretty cool, calm, and collected day. I like that we can see some of these aspects also between Mercury and the North Node, which is basically saying that we can take action, we can be more independent, we can be fierce if we are willing to speak up, communicate, share. Gemini is not limited to just being, on a phone or on an email or on a call. It can also be about what you're reading, what you're sharing, what you're learning. It can be what you're blogging about. So any forms of like media and communication are definitely going to be highlighted with that sextile to the North Node. Other than that, Monday is actually a relatively quiet day. We're going to watch the moon continue to go through Leo, and it looks like as we get into Tuesday the 11th, this is when we're going to start to see some sparks fly. So pull out your red markers, circle Tuesday. Know that this is going to be a day that there's definitely going to be more intensity than usual. There's a number of things going on here, so I'll kind of break it down for you guys. But probably the big thing that I'm looking at is the fact that this is going to be the day that we are going to experience Mars coming into a square with Pluto. So those of you guys who have any fixed rising signs, sun, moon, rising, in the degrees of 0 to about 2 degrees, you guys are going to feel this the most. Especially, like I said, my Tauruses, my Leos, my Scorpios, and my Aquariuses, you guys are going to be feeling that. Mars is forming an opening square. And if you guys caught my video where I talked about Mars and Taurus, I discussed how in February, right around Valentine's Day of this year, this is when we saw Mars and Pluto in conjunction in the sign of Aquarius. So that was a seated moment where there was a lot of passion, intensity, power. You know, there was a huge focus on transforming something about our collective goals, our motivations, you know, where we're kind of going in the future. And this is the first opening square. So it's going to feel like we are now, you know, challenged to, you know, rise to the occasion when it comes to what we were starting to focus on in February. Very intense for those of you guys also who are ruled by Mars. So my Mars ruled charts, my Aries and my Scorpio risings, equally Taurus and Aquarius placements. This is being really highlighted for you guys because it's happening between your two signs. Squares are the energy of Mars. So it does represent force and pressure, something that is pushing you to make a move. Mars wants to fight and Pluto wants to kind of burn things to the ground. It wants to have power and control. It can be about purging things that are kind of coming up from the underworld. It can be where, you know, agitation, frustration, anger is now starting to kind of erupt basically. So with this aspect, that already, you know, kind of Monday night going into Tuesday, we're feeling the pressure of that. But also Mars is the ruler of the North Node. So Mars transits really need to be kind of watched at least until the beginning of 2025 because Mars is a marker for showing us all collectively where we're going for something in regards to the North Node in Aries. So you need to look at where the North Node is in your chart. It's in the sign of Aries. Mars is almost doing the North Node's bidding. So in order for us to become more North Node in Aries, we are going to have to face some kind of battle of some sort that's going to be going down on like Tuesday and Wednesday. This is even further kind of intensified because we've got this transiting moon in in Leo. So as the moon continues to keep moving through Leo, it's going to pick up a square to Uranus. So I'm really focusing on the morning period on Tuesday. We've got two perfecting squares round about the same time that is quite intense. The moon in Leo coming into a square with Uranus indicates that it is dramatically responding to some disruption, unexpected, chaotic, volatile situation. Uranus and Taurus can be things like disruptions with the earth. It can be things connected to energy issues, things connected to the financial market, stocks. This is the day you want to watch the stock market because markets are connected to Leo. So that means there is more action, fluctuation going on with the moon being there. This is about speculative stuff, taking chances, but also creativity, drama, right? Romantic partners, children, things connecting to leaders. So that moon coming into a square with Uranus can indicate that we are all set for a bit of an emotional tailspin. And like I said, it's perfecting right about the time that Mars is squaring Pluto. So it looks like I'm on Central Time. So it looks like it's going to be closer to about 6 a.m. on the Pacific coast, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I know we have people all over the world, so adjust your time zones accordingly. But this Mars-Pluto square is going to perfect, and then we are going to have the moon square Uranus. So likely there can be some intense pressure kind of going on with Mars-Pluto stuff, you know, disruption between, you know, power struggles within politics or finances or some kind of group movement and things that are going on with Pluto and Aquarius versus physical resources and taking action, Mars, when it comes to protecting or accumulating something. So sparks fly pretty much all morning into the afternoon from, you know, about early morning into midday. And for me, you know, I think about this really challenging dynamic between Mars and Pluto because it's going to impact our sense of, you know, drive, desires, our sense of power. Mars-Pluto transits bring frustration. They bring definitely intensity and volatility, particularly in regards to our relationships, because Mars is in a sign that is ruled by Venus. So our relationship to money, our relationship to food, to banking, resources, self-esteem, security. You know, that square to Pluto is going to be representing that something about changes and transformations that are going on collectively are impacting us collectively on a physical or financial level. So the one thing to really think about is that during this period, we do not want to push things. We do not want to push the envelope. We don't want to push people beyond their limits. We don't want to push the speed limit. We don't want to be rushing and being hasty, being cautious with anything that is hot. Mars, Pluto. There are some people that say, well, that's kind of screaming like a potential financial black swan event. I'm not going to say that will happen, but that's something that's kind of being echoed on the internet right now. I'm wondering if this is when we start to see real pressure and we're starting to see issues in regards to more banking collapses or some kind of drama revolving around some kind of major exchange or stock related thing that's going on that's like forcing, some company to give up the shares or to, actually pay out if somebody decides to exercise their stock. So something like that is likely to happen. I want you guys to know that, it's definitely highlighting through a square that there is a need for balance between our personal desires and also the need of others, because Taurus is like, what's mine, and then, Pluto and Aquarius is like, okay, but, where are we changing what belongs to everybody? So it's definitely a good time to reevaluate your goals and your ambitions and make sure that they align with your values for the greater good. So it's like, okay, am I being selfish? Am I, too self-consumed? Am I not considering other people's perspective? Am I trying to force something because, I only see things my way? You're going to see a lot of people butting heads with this transit. So just be mindful that it does not bode well for, being able to sit down and have team meeting exercises. It does not bode well also for, making any snap decisions when it comes to investments or finances either. So be very careful with that dynamic. And I do feel like this is a time that, even though it feels uncomfortable, this is teaching us to learn how to be strong, how to be brave, and also like how to resolve conflicts in ways that are not confrontational or combative. Not everybody is going to play by the rules. That's something else that I'll tell you. So keep that in mind, that there is almost this like every man for himself aspect when you see squares between Taurus and Aquarius, because there are going to be other people who are going to be calling for some kind of chaos or some kind of change. And some people are going to be like, you know what? No, I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm going to go my own way. So be mindful of where there is some kind of collective dynamic or pressure or, groups of people that are, angry or agitated, and be really careful about your physical involvement with some of those things. This is an energy that is going to play out until Mars separates by about a degree. So it's still going to kind of bleed into Wednesday. Although Wednesday, we start to see things kind of calm down a little bit. So as we watch the day go on, we will see the moon continue to move through Leo. And by the time we wake up in the morning, the moon is now moving into Virgo. So this is going to be Wednesday the 12th. Now, on this day, with the moon in Virgo, where there is much more emphasis on service, there is much more emphasis on busy work, getting things done, health, organization, and also like really getting down to details, right? That's really what Virgo is all about. We look at what's going on with Mercury. And Mercury, first thing in the morning, is facing a square to Saturn. So similarly to what happened on Sunday, where we kind of got a delay or a check, or, we're experiencing some kind of setback. Now Mercury, which is the mind, business, communications, media, this is also coming into a square with Saturn. So this is, I think, a difficult communication aspect. This is where we're not getting the response that we want in time, or, having trouble meeting the deadline. There can be lack of communication or clarity with other people, with Saturn being in a Neptunian sign. This is also where we need to really do our research. We need to make sure that, we know what we're talking about before we share or we post something. If Saturn is the limit and Mercury is the communicator, then the opening square basically is like Saturn kind of putting an invisible lasso around Mercury. And so Mercury archetypes are, journalists, bloggers, YouTubers, people who are putting out information or data of some sort. It can also be about things relating to like youth education, stuff revolving around social media. And, you know, Saturn does represent censorship. It does represent limitation. So this is going to be a day where there can be some communication breakdowns. We can see some issues with social media apps. There can be, you know, problems going on with vehicles or websites where we're trying to communicate, connect, or even like travel. Travel delays are a huge theme connected to Mercury square Saturn in these signs. Some people may experience that there's also some issues getting, you know, cars or vehicles to work. They kind of act up a little bit with this aspect. But that's definitely going to be felt a lot more than usual because we're looking at Mercury while the moon is in Virgo. Now, as that moon is moving through Virgo, something else that's going to happen is it's going to be trining Mars. Wonderful aspect, even though Mars can feel a little sluggish in the sign of Taurus. I really feel like the key to Wednesday is staying focused. It's not giving up. It's about being about solutions, staying busy. When the moon in Virgo trines Mars in Taurus, that's an earth trine. So we feel like we can get anything done. Nothing can stop us. We're very busy, detail oriented, and we feel like we can be on track all day. So I also think that that Mercury square Saturn can be like drowning out the noise and being like, okay, I'm not going to be, you know, focusing on hearing what other people say. I'm focusing on my goals and I'm going to, you know, kind of get down to business. Can be a day where you're like, I'm putting my phone on silent. I'm not going on social media apps. I'm trying to stay focused with what's in front of me. Don't get distracted. Keep your blinders on because this can actually be a very productive day, especially since we're going to see the moon is going to also square Jupiter in Gemini. So we are feeling maybe a little overly stimulated in the morning, but maybe we're also feeling inspired and we're more so willing to really make sure that we're doing our due diligence to kind of like stick to our list, communicate, and get things done. That'll be an early square, very early in the morning. So you guys are going to make the most of your day on Wednesday if you're getting up early and getting things done, because most of these transits, the Mercury square Saturn, the moon trine Mars, the moon square Jupiter, this is all happening first thing in the morning. So you want to really get up and be productive. And maybe that Mercury square Saturn is like, I'm putting my phone on silent. I'm getting up an hour early. I'm getting some chores done. I'm organizing some stuff. And I'm just drowning things out so I can be super hyper focused. It can be a very, very, very productive day if you guys use this wisely. All right, so the moon is going to keep moving through the sign of Virgo. That's going to be all day long. And it won't be until like the next 2 days that we're going to start seeing some squares happening between stuff in Pisces and stuff in the sign of Virgo. Gemini. So then we're up on Thursday, the 13th. And something that you guys are going to be feeling is we're going to be experiencing some mutable squares here as we get towards the end of the week. So one of the first things that's going to happen is we're going to see the moon coming into an opposition with Saturn, and this is going to be closer to like midday, kind of going into the afternoon. The moon in opposition to Saturn does feel like it's more difficult to emotionally relate. You know, like that moon in Virgo is all about staying on task and getting organized and, you know, being able to be on time and communicate. And the moon's going to get a little agitated because the things that it wants to do, it's being fought with, you know, limitation and restriction, right? So we're going back and forth with, well, you know, where am I hiding out Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces from doing the things that I need to do? Or where am I not kind of in alignment? Where am I not sleeping well? Where am I not reflecting on things? And then we're going to see that the moon is then going to come into a square with Mercury and the sun, and that's also going to disrupt the moon because having the moon square its ruler or its dispositor, Mercury, means there's something at odds about what we feel versus what we actually are thinking, and there can be some confusion. And then obviously when the sun and the moon square, this is a representation of something being disjointed. So this is actually going to be the opening square since that most recent new moon that we had in Gemini, which I think was extra fortuitous, conjunction to Venus, hello. But there is something that's changing, that is shifting, that is kind of in a way breaking down or giving way that you're going to notice at the end of this week. Pisces, Virgo, Gemini. This is all about our details and what's almost like factual and what actually works. Virgo is almost seen as like the editor, or, the person who goes in and perfects everything. Gemini is all about the information, and it's about just getting it out there. Sometimes there can be some issues with the filter or clarity. And then we have, Pisces, which is kind of like, well, can we believe this or not? So there's going to be some need, as we get kind of later in the week, to really be cautious when it comes to information, when it comes to planning trips, when it comes to kind of making decisions or commitments, because there is something that can be kind of like jumbled or kind of confusing. All right. Anyway, that moon is going to also come into a trine to Uranus in Taurus. So after it opposes Saturn, which will be kind of in the mid-afternoon, then it's going to square Mercury. This is going to be on Thursday evening. Okay, so a little difficult for communication and traveling over the evening period. And then it's going to square the sun right before most of us are going to bed. And then it's going to trine Uranus very late at night, going into the morning of the 14th. So we're not really going to benefit from the trine to Uranus, maybe a little bit. This is, where we're willing to make changes and kind of improvise, which I think we're going to have to do because of the opposition to Saturn and the squares to planets in Gemini. I think that as we get to the end of the week, we start to kind of like realize the 13th, 14th, and 15th. A narrative in our life is changing. Something that we thought we knew or that we believed in is changing in some way because of some of these squares that we're seeing on both sides of the mutable signs. Now we're going to get into one other thing I would say is that with this energy that's building, that's really highlighting, the Mercury, Sun coming into a square with Neptune. Thursday can be a time where you notice that there's just difficulty with communication. There can be misunderstandings, especially from about Thursday on, okay? So you guys will kind of see this hang around. It's kind of like a Neptunian haze for a couple days. And then we get to the 14th, which is Friday, and things do lighten up a little bit over the weekend. We will see first thing in the morning, the moon is still in Virgo. Pretty early in the morning, that moon will be squaring Mercury, the Sun, and Venus. So we can still expect some changes or transformations to our plans. We can still, find that we're needing to continue to be going through and editing something or perfecting something. But pretty significant mutable T-square here. And if you guys notice, Gemini is the focal point of that square. So where Virgo can be very much about clarity, perfection, service, health, things pertaining to our work schedule, where we're working, what we're doing, our habits. And then Pisces, where, there's something that's not entirely clear. The Gemini area of the skies is really kind of saying, like, hold on a second, there's news, there's articles, there's information, there's new ways of doing things, there's other ways of looking at stuff, there's stuff we're reading, stuff we're learning that influences us from either the Pisces aspect or the Virgo aspect, which, we know what those are about. I think that this is going to be a really interesting period of time, the 13th and the 14th, for media pertaining to what's going on with news in regards to health. That's what I think this is going to be about, because that's really what Virgo is connected to. And as we see, Mercury conjuncting with the Sun and also Venus coming out of a square with Saturn, where there's been some limitation, and now building into a pretty bizarro world squares to Neptune, we're starting to see, like, wait a second, is this factual? Is it distorted? Are people freaking out about something that's coming out? Are they worried about what they're reading, what they're hearing? I'm just going to keep reminding you guys once again, like, all of these planets in Gemini, you're going to see two sides of any situation. You're going to see differing facts, differing information, differing blog posts and articles and things that are coming up that can seem confusing because they can be so polar opposite of each other. This is going to be an interesting time to see where, there's news breaking out in the world and how separate news, I guess, like, companies decide to, relay this information, because you're going to see a lot of differences of opinions on things and how things are actually being kind of pitched or projected, or how the actual narrative of some of these stories are being spun. The moon will continue through Virgo only in the early hours on Friday, and it's going to then shift into Libra, okay? So something else that we're going to see is that when that Libra moon ingress happens, we actually get a little bit of like support from the cosmos. And the reason why I say this is because the moon is going to immediately start coming into a trine with Pluto, okay? So moon in Libra, there is an emphasis on relationships, partnerships, harmony, other people, collaborations, working with clients, you know, being more interested in spending time with our partners. So it can be wonderful in the aspect of like, yeah, Friday can definitely be a date night. It can be a time that's great for getting groups of friends together or groups of couples together with the moon trine Pluto. And we can feel very empowered by the people that we have around us. But it also improves communication and socializing here as well. Now the moon, as it goes through Libra, it's also going to pick up a trine to Jupiter. So moon in Libra, trining Jupiter and Gemini, really fun, chatty, kind of getting out and about. And then the trine to Pluto does make for, I think, pretty great socializing opportunities that are going to be going on Friday night. The only thing that I would watch for is that we are going to be having this Cazimi on Friday the 14th as well. So we're going to see that Mercury is going to be in superior position to the sun. We see this several times throughout the year, but I like that this one is actually in the sign of Gemini because Mercury is in its domicile. So it's going to be able to do what it does best. It's able to kind of get in there, relay the information. This is generally a day where you're going to see the license plates. You're going to see like the angel numbers on the microwave. You're going to notice the synchronicities of things happening, or that, you know, if something's been missing, suddenly it's been found, or there is some brand new news or, you know, big things that are kind of coming out that, you know, are kind of making headlines. This Cazimi is going to be at 24 degrees of Gemini. So if you have any placements like 23, 24, 25, pay attention. Obviously with a Cazimi, we work with a very tight orb of anywhere from about 17 minutes to 1 degree. So this is the day that you want to have like a notebook handy, or you want to have your little voice recorder app, or you want to be just writing down synchronicities and things, because 24 degrees deals with things that can come to us intuitively or in a dream. It can be something that disappears that suddenly appears. It can also be about something significant in regards to our spiritual connection. It can also be about things that are otherworldly, right? This is like a Pisces degree, 24 degrees. But it can also be dealing with hospitals. It can be dealing with mental health. It could be dealing with things pertaining to people going missing, or documents going missing, or something that was hidden suddenly now becomes visible. Obviously, Mercury conjunct the sun is like putting a spotlight on anything relating to Mercury. Well, in the background, you know, we do see this building square to Neptune. So it can be highlighting, hold on, you know, here's some information that hasn't been seen, that, you know, it might be a story that comes out really quickly, kind of quickly dissolves, or it gets like hidden, or it gets kind of overshadowed with like another story, you know. So you have to be quick to kind of catch the stuff as it comes out. And the Sabian symbol, which I'm going to read to you guys, is a man trimming palms. So I'm going to read to you guys 25 of Gemini. And it says, a man trimming palms. The keyword is enhancement, and the theme is dedication. So the symbol speaks to effort and pride in workmanship, and helps the individual make their personal mark in the world. The image of a man trimming palm trees, it depicts the shaping and enhancement of natural resources to man's purposes. The process of trimming dead palms from the tree also symbolizes the elimination of those things that have no immediate value or purpose, or that burden and impede your future growth. Implicit in this symbol is the necessity that the individual become ultimately familiar with the raw materials of his work and know how to use them to achieve his goals. At its highest, it represents a special talent for obtaining the cooperation and resources needed to accomplish objectives. Watch for naive satisfaction in making things look good rather than doing the job properly. The accent is on cutting back and sprucing up. Your greatest advantage lies in getting rid of excess things you don't really need in your life. Streamline and refine. Remember that sometimes less is more. Guard against wasting valuable time in trivial details or trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. The stepping stones are beautification, care, betterment, cultivation, enhancement, perfection, refinement, cutting back, reduction, labor, and effort. Okay, so keep in mind that, Mercury can be data, information, statistics, numbers, things like that. And the square to Saturn, really interesting, just reflecting, like really interesting in this last week to see some stuff that's been coming out. There's been some crazy stuff that I have seen that's talking about how, there's conflicting data and information that's coming up about the job reports, how we're, hearing that, supposedly job numbers are, going up, but we're not seeing that reflected in what's going on with the economy. There's other things that I've seen this week that are charts and graphs saying, well, yeah, we are seeing that there's been jobs, but actually when it comes to creating new jobs for American, at least I'm an American here in the States, that it's seeming to look like there's actually been less and less jobs for Americans since 2018. So it goes back a number of years. And this stuff is just now starting to kind of trickle into the media. So it's interesting to kind of see, because I don't personally really see the correlation between the job numbers and actually the health of the economy. So yeah, I think it's going to be something in regards to that, because this deals with labor, and it also deals with craftsmanship, really knowing what you're doing and making sure that you're doing the job and you're doing it well. You're not just skimming over things, right? And that can happen as we start to see squares, between Saturn and Neptune, where we kind of get the checks early in the week that's like, hey, do this right. And then down the road, a couple days later, we'll see the squares to Neptune where there can be some stuff that we missed. A Mercury Cazimi, it's considered to be a positive astrological aspect. It's supposed to be something that brings light to something, and it really is about Mercury dying and being reborn. So it's powerful, it's transformative. I think in this context, it's going to really amplify communication, intellectual aspects, and anything kind of connected to the sign of Gemini. This is also socializing and connecting with people. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It's known for having quick wit. It's also about being curious and being flexible and adaptable. So I think that one thing you guys really want to be focusing on is clear, concise communication, sharing ideas, exploring new intellectual pursuits, because that's really what is being highlighted with the conjunction to the sun. However, we can sometimes see that when a planet is so close to the sun, and we've been seeing this recently with Venus, it almost feels like burned up in a way, right? We're feeling like mind on fire. So it can bring some challenges. There can be a sense of like the sun overshadowing Mercury, leading to feeling a little mentally burned out and a little fried. There can be, there is more of a need, I think, to be in balance with our communication and what's going on with information that we're receiving and relaying. And we may feel like we need more rest. Still a positive transit. I'm only kind of putting that out there because we will see in the next couple of days after this Cazimi, the sun and Mercury will also square Neptune. So there is this sense of being like overwhelmed with some of the news and events and things that are going on later in the week. And we're just kind of like, we're burnt out. There's just been information overload. I will show you guys in just a second where this is taking place for all 12 signs. Obviously very significant for Gemini and also for Virgo because you guys are ruled by Mercury, but I think everybody can really benefit from this particular conjunction because it's going to give you a little bit of insight. It's also worth mentioning, Venus is there, so it can be about some, news or something kind of coming out in regards to money, in regards to relationships, in regards to values, resources. After all, Venus rules the South Node. So something you're going to see during this period is that moon is going to continue to be moving through the sign of Libra and will start coming into trines with these aspects. So with the sun, Mercury, Venus, all being in the late degrees of Gemini, squaring Neptune, some shift is happening. There is a change that's happening in the way we think, communicate, and relate to other people. And you'll see some of that kind of trine out through the lunar transits. The other thing that you guys are going to want to be watching for is going to be on the 15th. So we'll see the moon continue Saturday night going through Libra. Still a decent time for connecting and communicating and socializing. I think I personally liked Friday night a little bit better. But this can be wildly social if you guys have plans and stuff that you're going to be doing on Saturday night as well. And then we get to, okay, so now we get to Saturday. So this is Moon in Libra still happening. Okay. You're not going to see too much going on. We will see the moon's going to conjunct the south node. I really feel like Saturday is a pretty quiet day on deck. We have yet to see some of the squares between Neptune yet. So not too much is going on. It looks like right around midday on Saturday, you're going to see a moon south node transit. Just keep in mind that when the moon is meeting with the south node, and it's going to be at 12 degrees, there is a breakdown, a dissolve, a clearing of our emotions. We can be more prone to kind of having swings with our moods and needing to kind of clear out any kind of karmic baggage in regards to the past. Obviously, this is ruled by Venus, so it's really picking up the fact that Venus is now coming into the square with Neptune, which can make us very sensitive. It can make us feel that we've experienced some kind of deception in love, or there's been a sense of being disappointed, or maybe we've put someone or something on a pedestal, or we had high expectations for something. So Venus is a lot more sensitive with the moon going through Libra with this transit. It still has not perfected yet, so it has another day for that to kind of take place. And then it does look like the conjunction will be in the afternoon to the south node, and then as we're getting into the evening, it is now moving still through Libra, and it's pretty unaspected, to be honest with you. It hasn't opposed Chiron or anything like that as well. So like I said, you can still go out and do stuff on Saturday. Just keep in mind that there can be fluctuations and changes going on with relationships to other people, and people are generally in their feelings when the south node and the moon come into conjunction. Definitely shedding old layers in regards to relationships, and with having Venus and Mercury so close by to each other, even without the squares to Saturn and Neptune, there is a sense of really communicating and intellectualizing and sharing and expressing what we think and what we love and how we feel. And so there's something to be said about the fact that that's kind of going on in the skies, and through sometimes communication and ideas and keeping an open mind, and maybe even having multiple options or choices when it comes to relationships, and talking about that, or being unsure about what we want, that can also lead to some of the relationship kind of untangling with the south node moon. Okay, so now this is going to take us into Sunday, the 16th, and we got some stuff going on today. So we're going to wake up in the morning on Sunday, and the moon is one of the first real aspects the moon is going to be making is in opposition to Chiron. So we've got North Node and Chiron in the same sign, where we're still responsible for our own personal healing. There is a lot that we are emotionally, physically, spiritually trying to work through, trying to work on. Obviously, there's probably been some challenges this week with Mars square Pluto in regards to that. And when the moon opposes Chiron, I really feel like this can be about where we are learning how to not project our wounds onto other people. Maybe we are more conscious and aware of the fact that we've, been hurt, so we're seeking support and help from others. It's going to be interesting because I think that opposition is really kind of showing you that maybe it's reverberating from whatever was going on Saturday night. If there was like a sense of kind of disconnecting or disengaging with someone, it's really highlighting the fact that, Chiron is having to kind of do his own work. As the moon continues through Libra, you're going to see it come into a trine with the sun and also with Mercury. So Sunday night feels quite social to me. It feels like we've got a lot going on. And this is going to be also when we see Venus come into a square with Neptune. So that's going to be in the PM hours. Mercury is coming into that square as well. So Sunday night, we're going to see both Venus and Mercury at a critical 29 degrees of Gemini. So double trouble, especially when it comes to relationships and partnerships, and a square to Neptune. So the positives, because I want to focus on the positives. The positive is that the moon is in Libra, where we can partner, connect, collaborate with other people. It's moved far enough away from, in the PM hours, the South Node, and also the opposition to Chiron, that it's really tapping into the trine with the sun, which means relationship is possible through communication. It's really also working well with Mercury, where it can share, communicate, connect, plan, kind of get around. And also, I love to see the moon in a trine to Venus if the moon is in Libra. However, these are all hitting critical degrees here. So we feel like, whoa, there is something really, the tide is really turning in a very specific way. Look at this late at night, kind of going into Monday morning, but still Sunday night seems like we're completing a lot of lessons. There's a lot of things we're overcoming. Neptune at 29, Mercury at 29, Venus at 29, Moon at 29. There are big, big, big things that are turning over on Sunday. Anyway, I'm really focusing on the heart-mind connection with Venus and Gemini, because I think that love is, through communication. Love is also flexible. There's options with Venus in the sign. And the connection to Mercury can sometimes be talking about choices and options when it comes to, relationships, partnerships, values, money, financial situations, style, social relationships. So this square to Neptune, this is what you want to watch for, okay? On one hand, I think that the trines to, Mercury, Venus, and the sun with the moon, it's like great day for brainstorming, okay? So when in doubt, call a friend, connect with a group of people. It's really great for brainstorming opportunities, talking to other people, gaining clarity. It's about being a team, being focused on team kind of dynamics. And whether you've got a situation at home where you got to put your heads together and figure out how to fix it, or you've got something going on where, there's something changing at work and you got to call some people and have them kind of work on it with you on a Sunday, there is strength in numbers. And if you lean into the trines, I think it's going to be a lot easier to navigate than the squares that we're seeing to Neptune. Now, Venus and Mercury in Gemini, right? Squaring Neptune and Pisces. Squares create tension. I think this is between what is practical, what is direct versus what is maybe things that can be dreamy, things that can be intuitive, things that can just seem straight up bizarro world. Every time I see mutable squares at 29 degrees, it's like some of the craziest stories that we hear comes out. Gemini can be, anything in regards to travel, communications, cars. Neptune can be beaches. It can be things relating to water. It can be things relating to flooding. So we're going to see issues where there's going to be some clashes going on with possibly travel and some kind of issues in regards to significant weather, flooding, or storms. And that may be making headlines with those critical degrees. Now, I think that anytime you see a square between Mercury, which is our mental capabilities and how we connect and communicate or travel, square with Neptune, there's definitely a lot of room here for confusion and disillusionment. Okay, so you're going to see that people are going to be telling tall tales. There's going to be some stories that are going to come out and you're like, that's just fucking crazy. Like, you're going to see that stuff. So you want to take what you're hearing and seeing out in the world with a grain of salt. Don't go off assuming something is true and reposting it. Don't go off relaying, a story assuming that you have all the facts, because it's going to be hard to get the facts straight with some of this stuff. It can be very mentally draining as well, because Mercury is in its home sign, and so it just wants to keep putting that information out. And Neptune can definitely make us, a little bit more predisposed to, I think, emotional burnout from so much communication. And then we've also got this feeling of like the Gemini planets being challenged by Neptune. So we're going to feel foggy. There's going to be escapist tendencies that are going to be coming up. There can definitely be a lot of confusion relating to what? Relationships, Venus, but also communication. This is like the day that, there could be like the email scam, right? Literally Venus, Mercury, in Gemini. It's like, somebody sends you an email and says, hey, send me the money. And you're like, oh, I think it's my cousin. It's not. This is the day that you want to be really careful with transactions. I would be really careful with having heart-to-heart conversations, making big investments, signing contracts, anything like that, because of the critical degrees and things don't seem clear. Now, some of us might feel that it's romantic. Venus square Neptune, we might be, feeling more romantic or more sensitive, and we may be feeling more generous with Venus being involved. Yes, I'll pay your bills, or I'll, buy you the gift, or I'll give you what you want. But there can be some sense of also putting people on a pedestal or overly idealizing things, and we're basing things more with emotions than we are with logic. So take that into consideration. I think squares are better used for letting go of situations or relationships that aren't working and where there isn't clarity or there's lack of being on the same page. Squares really say that, especially involving Neptune, that there is more need for clarity. Words are great, but we want to see something more. We want to see something tangible. So keep that in mind. Literally going into Monday, we're going to see Mercury and Venus dipping into Cancer throughout that particular transit. There will be trines to Saturn. So better time for communication, better time also for stabilizing, contracts, commitments, relationships. But this one is definitely very tricky. Now, this is going to be at 29 degrees, and 29 degrees is a Leo degree, so it can bring the drama. For sure, it can bring the drama. But it can also be very creative. I don't want to downplay that energy. It can be a day where there can be, a feeling of getting swept up in our hobbies, or spending a lot of time with our kids, or being more compassionate and romantic with some of our partners. It's all about doing things that we love. So I really feel like with Mercury and Venus square Neptune, we can be like, I used to love doing this and I don't do it anymore. I want to get back into it. And that idea can kind of come to us, maybe even as early as the Cazimi. It's also revolving around high-ranking positions, okay? So people who are in positions of power. It does deal with, elitists, career advancement, ambition. It's about tourism, vacation, summer holidays, things that are connecting to entertainment, like restaurants, pubs, acting and theater. So there could be some big news coming out about some of these topics out in the world. Sports, stadiums, things revolving around children, things involving gold or things of value, to be proud, to have a high opinion of oneself. Now, Mercury and Venus is like the archetype, I think, of like, a really prominent, female anchor or journalist, or it can be more about women's rights, or, talking about, women's causes. And the squares to Neptune can basically like be highlighting, the issues or the things that have been kind of hidden in regards to some of these topics and bringing them to light. So that's kind of like my feeling on that. But I'm excited to see what happens to these 29s overnight as we get into Monday of next week. So I will definitely pick that up when we get to that video. In the meantime, I would like to share with you guys where this Cazimi that's going to be taking place this week is happening for each and every one of the 12 rising signs. So let's pull that Cazimi back up. So once again, it's going to be at 24 degrees. So if you have any personal planets, 23, 24, 25 in Gemini, it's going to be really pertinent for you, because you're going to see that that's going to probably bring some kind of download or inside information. And I'm going to use the whole sign method for this for you guys. I've noticed a number of people asking, are you Vedic? What are you? I am a Western astrologer. I practice Western astrology. So this is going to be the predictions for the 12 rising signs. I'm going to be using the whole sign method. So you can look for which house Gemini is in, or if you like to use Placidus, just look for where 24 degrees of Gemini is in your chart. As a reminder, very important for my Geminis and my Virgo risings, because you're ruled by Mercury, and also Leo. Pay attention to this as well, because Mercury is coming in bringing you a message. So it can be an encounter, a meeting, something like that you have with another person. And this is for the Western tropical signs. All right. So let's go ahead and start with my Aries and Aries risings. You guys are going to be experiencing the superior conjunction, the Mercury Cazimi, happening in your third house. So Mercury is strong here. It's at home. This is definitely relating to communication, cars, siblings, anything in regards to traveling or learning. I think with Mercury being here, communication is going to be at its peak. So this can be a time where, you know, you're becoming aware of a conversation that you need to have with someone. Maybe you have a bright idea about something creatively. Maybe there is like a chance meeting with somebody that happens locally. But it's a great time for writing, for learning, and connecting with siblings and neighbors because it's happening in the 3rd house. So watch for those bright ideas, moments where you're just feeling totally inspired to write, jot down your notes or anything like that, because I think that, yeah, it can be the beginning of a pretty great idea, okay? So let's take a look now at Taurus and Taurus rising. Hold on, Gemini. Taurus rising. You're going to be experiencing the Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Gemini in your natal 2nd house. All right, Taurus, this is one of your favorite topics. It is all about money. It's about finances. It's about your financial security, cash in hand, what you've got. So a Mercury Cazimi taking place in your 2nd house is likely going to bring opportunities for financial growth and stability. So right now with this conjunction, it's really highlighting, I think, looking at your finances. I think it's going to be about reviewing your budget. It might be about making investments or considering new ways to increase your income. So all very good things, especially with Venus, your chart ruler, being in the 2nd house. For some of you guys, it might be about signing a contract. It might be getting news that more money is coming in. It might be about a second line of income coming in. That's kind of like the focus here. And what's interesting is that, you know, the sun rules your 4th house, which deals with home and family. So, you know, you may have more money that's coming in. That's great because you need it for your cost of living, your home situation. Maybe you're acquiring more money because of something connected to family or property. But I see it being particularly beneficial for you. Keep in mind for all of the signs, right? Jupiter is in this house. So even though Jupiter will not conjunct this degree this year, this can be the beginning process of being like, okay, we're going to be bringing more money in. And so you're getting wind that that's going to be happening. And you may see that kind of unfold as Jupiter goes throughout the sign. Okay. All right. Good luck, my Tauruses. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys were just so excited to get in here. What's going on, guys? How are you guys feeling with all these planets in Gemini? My God. So you guys are experiencing the Cazimi in your 1st house. Likely you are just like this little radio receiver. You are just like on and getting all the information. The Cazimi will be taking place in your 1st house if you're a Gemini rising, and this is the house of self. So during the Mercury Cazimi in your sign, you're definitely feeling more confident. I think you're feeling more expressive. There's definitely a sense of feeling optimistic and like ready to show up for the occasion when it comes to starting new projects, meeting new people, exploring, like really expressing who you are. Jupiter is also in this house, so it really emphasizes this sense of being positive, optimistic, sharing, reaching out, connecting with people. And I feel like when the Sun and Mercury come together, it's a really significant time for making a post, for planning a trip, for having a contract that you're putting together, for agreeing to something, for making a decision maybe about a vehicle, some bright idea maybe if you want to start like writing something. This would be a really good time because you may feel like you're really inspired. But it's all about using your voice basically. So keep that in mind. Venus is there as well. So I definitely feel like there's a flare of feeling like inspired, or it might be something kind of connected to style or beauty related things as well. It can be like a reveal where people are starting to see, you know, what changes you've made to your appearance or your health regimen, and it's becoming very, very vibrant. So good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You guys are going to be experiencing this very spiritual Mercury Cazimi taking place in Gemini, and this will be in your natal 12th house. This is all about spirituality, what is hidden, the subconscious. My goodness, watch for dreams. There can be some really, really symbolic dreams that can be coming up during this particular transit for you. That's giving you some insight. Write it down. Make notes of what's coming up around the time of this Cazimi. So for you, I think it's going to be about finding yourself a little bit more introspective. I think it's a good time to really take time to pause and reflect. You might need more alone time, or you're more so drawn to meditation or spiritual practices. So it's definitely a good time to take some time to be alone. Go for a walk, maybe with Gemini being there. Explore your subconscious mind. It's a good time for a reading and getting some insight from someone. Obviously, the sun is involved, so this can be a way for you to also be working on personal projects, putting together things that you're hoping to manifest when it comes to personal resources, or any of your hidden talents kind of come through the 12th house as well. So with like Jupiter, Mercury, Venus there, you may be working on something that you're anticipating, could bring more money in the future, and you're kind of working on things behind the scenes. And also this can be a time where there's like, you have some kind of divine insight. Like you feel like there is like guidance that's coming in intuitively for you, that's kind of directing you. So listen to that voice that comes through and gives you some kind of like direction. Good luck, Cancer. All right, so we've got Leo and Leo rising. What's going on, Leo? Obviously, this is a fun one for you because Mercury is conjuncting the sun that rules your chart. So you'll be seeing the Cazimi in Gemini in your natal 11th house. All right, so the 11th house has connections to your networks, your friends. This is also about your community. This is also your goals. So this will involve other people or groups of people. If you're socializing, if you go to a party, a gathering, a hangout, a get-together, likely there can be some chance meeting, some connection to someone, or a reconnection to someone. It can bring new friends and opportunities to connect within your community. And it's also a great time that if you get an invitation to join a group or a network or an organization, especially if it aligns with something that interests you, to go. Obviously, you're the sun. Mercury deals with, your finances, and it also deals with your goals. So this may be a time where you're being introduced to new clients, new friends, people who can kind of really help you feel confident in some of the work that you're doing. It can also lead to some really great business connections. And it's really great also for like chance meetings when it comes to going to parties and celebrations as well. Great for goals too. Wish fulfillment and goals is a big thing there. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? Are you ready? Are you ready for this big news in regards to your career, your status? So that's what's happening. So you've got a Mercury conjunct the sun, Mercury Cazimi, taking place in your natal 10th house. So this is all about your career, your status, and your reputation. Obviously, Jupiter is there, so it's expanding something about your career or your status. I know some of you guys are like getting married. Some of you guys are launching businesses. Some of you guys are becoming bosses. So there's already some growth that has been on the horizon in regards to your professional stuff. Now, wherever Mercury goes is where you are. So Mercury conjuncting the sun does seem to imply or indicate that there may be a significant shift going on at work. It may mean that you're getting news that a boss is stepping down or a superior is stepping down, and you're being offered some kind of leadership role, management role, maybe a raise. This can also mean that you're getting wind that there is something changing about the future of your job, or maybe even something shifting in regards to a relationship with a parent. You might hear that a parent's retiring. That's another way that this could materialize as well. But I think that a Cazimi in the 10th house is having you feel more ambitious and focused on your goals. And it's definitely a really good time to be networking and showcasing your skills. You're going to be more visible than usual. People are going to be seeing what you're doing. And like if you work in a role or a position where you feel like you're not getting a lot of, like pats on the back, or people aren't really kind of seeing what you're doing, and you're not kind of getting put in the forefront and appreciated for all the hard work you're doing, now it can become more visible because the sun rules the 12th house. So maybe you're, receiving an award or an appreciation, or maybe, you're just being recognized for everything that you've been kind of working on within your position. Okay, so let me know how that goes, Virgo. That's a nice transit, especially with Jupiter being there. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing the Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Gemini in your natal 9th house. So first of all, Libra, Gemini is a fellow sister air sign. So if you have Libra placements, 24, 25, 26 degrees, this is in harmony with you. It's going to trine your sun, moon, or rising. So it's going to be really wonderful. In the background, Venus is also very close to this Cazimi. So there's something to be said about where this new bright opportunity or idea is coming from. Does personally include you. It involves you. I think of the new moon that we had in your 9th house that was involving Venus, and now we have a Cazimi involving Venus. So there's something that's definitely opening up in regards to your 9th house. 9th house is higher learning, okay? So a Cazimi here can bring opportunities for you to travel, for you to go back to school, for you to expand your horizons, to have a change of mind. You may also be considering or contemplating publishing something. Maybe you have a bright idea about teaching. Maybe a new teacher or a guru or a mentor arrives in your life, especially with Jupiter being in your 9th house. Really strong year for either becoming the teacher or finding a teacher or a guru. Now, the sun is the ruler of the 11th house, so it is about friends and other people. It is about networks. So it is possible that the Cazimi is about some invitation to join a group. It can also represent, planning some kind of foreign vacation or trip, or, having a bright idea about writing a course or putting something out there that you're going to publish. So really, really good energy for you, Libra. Let me know how that goes. Maybe hearing from somebody in a foreign land. That's the other way of looking at it. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You guys will be experiencing the Mercury Cazimi in your natal 8th house. All right, Scorpio, so you're no stranger to 8th house energy. We know that it can be taboo, it can be dark, it can be about transformation, it can be about joint resources, it can be about taxes, healing. So it really depends on what you got going on here. But a Cazimi is a positive aspect. So when you have this Cazimi in your 8th house, likely this is about really delving deeper into your own psyche. And this is about exploring your beliefs and your values. Really good time for introspection and personal growth. Obviously, the sun does rule your 10th house of career and status. So it can represent, how do I feel about changing my career? How do I feel about changing my job? How do I feel about changes going on with, my partner's resources or taxes? Certainly, Mercury can be about information, conversations, thought-provoking conversations that can kind of come in. And Jupiter is there as well. So likely this getting out of your comfort zone, talking more about things that, are bothering you on a deeper level, or talking about the nitty-gritty of joint finances or resources, or even potential investments are necessary right now, because likely it's going to be something that's going to bring you increased closeness, but also increased wealth. So watch for important documents and things that can be coming in that you're signing that can be about some kind of growth of your assets. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You'll be experiencing this Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Gemini, your opposite sign, in your 7th house. All right, Sag. So you're going to be experiencing this in your 7th house of partnerships. I will just say that this is a pretty significant energy because obviously, Jupiter is in your 7th house. Jupiter rules your sign. So there's already some kind of expansion or growth or something that's changing about the way that you think and communicate in relationships. I've seen a lot of Sag risings talking about that they've been going through it. So I don't know, but typically Jupiter in the 7th is good for bringing in partnerships. So if you haven't seen that yet and you're single, the Cazimi can be a meeting point that is possible that somebody can kind of come in. I really feel like new connections and new opportunities for partnerships and collaboration can come in. It's a great time to focus on relationships, whether that's romantic or professional. 7th house is also it's your marketplace. So if you have a business, if you have clients, if you sell something, great time to make an announcement, especially because the sun rules the 9th house. So it does deal with marketing and, telling people what you're doing or what you're teaching or what you're writing or what you're selling. It can mean that you're traveling, and through traveling, you connect and you meet somebody who lives somewhere else. It can also be an indication that, with Venus being close by, there is some new potential collaboration that you're doing with somebody who can help you. So this can be an assistant, this can be a business partner, this can be a manager. And whether you're looking for a travel agent or you're looking for somebody to help you at work, or you just want a little bit more time with a committed relationship that you're already in, it all bodes very well. Watch for some unexpected communication, somebody reaching out to, or a partner kind of sharing some kind of news with you that can come from this particular transit. They may be proposing, hey, let's go on a trip, or, like, let's get married. Something like that can kind of come up, because with Venus and Jupiter being in this house, it's extremely sweet. So whether it's travel or future plans, it's looking really good for you guys. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You'll be experiencing the Mercury Cazimi and Gemini in your natal 6th house, which is all about health and work for you guys. But the good thing is that Mercury really likes being in the 6th house. It performs really well here and also in this sign. So I see it as actually being good news revolving around these two topics. A Cazimi here, you may find yourself just feeling better, feeling more motivated, better organized, more efficient at work. It's also a good time to focus on your health and well-being and making sure that you are making conscious decisions to have a healthier lifestyle. For some of you guys, because the sun is connected to the 8th house, it can represent changes with your health habits, changes with also like your diet and things pertaining to like detoxing. So I noticed that Mercury and Venus are close by, and it may also be the beginning process of a second job or a part-time job, or talks of a new office or some kind of change happening within your staff that's kind of brewing. I do see it being positive though. So if you're somebody who has been in between work, or you're looking for something part-time, or you're looking for a new space or whatever, it looks like there may be some information that's coming in, giving you some insight about what's kind of happening in the future when it comes to your daily routine and your workspace. So that's really positive. Obviously, you're going to want to pay attention because, you'll have Saturn squares a couple days prior to this. So if you feel like there's been any miscommunications or misunderstandings in regards to health results or getting on well with people at work, likely this is when you're going to see something kind of like break out from that. Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You'll be experiencing the Mercury Cazimi taking place in Gemini in your natal 5th house. So for you guys, this is cool because it is a fellow air sign. So if you happen to have anything 24, 25-ish, 26-ish degrees of Aquarius, you'll be experiencing a trine to your sun, moon, or rising. Now, the Cazimi happening in your 5th house is a fun one because I think it's meant to spark creativity. It's meant to spark passion. It can bring in a new romantic partner or a new lover. Also, it can be a chance meeting that you have with a new creative partner, a bright idea maybe that you have about a future project or about some kind of new hobby. The sun rules your 7th house. So with the sun Mercury Cazimi, it can be having a heart-to-heart conversation with somebody you're just getting to know and then realizing that there's opportunity for love to grow and more commitment there. But also a Cazimi in the 5th house, because Mercury has connections also to your 8th, does talk about intimate conversations, joining together, merging together, taking chances, maybe chance investments. But also it can relate to children. So if you have children, it can be about just a huge focus on the relationship with your kids that particular period. It can be a time where, they're first walking, they're first speaking, saying their first words. It can also be an indicator that there can be some good news coming about pregnancy, especially with Jupiter being in your 5th house. That can be that there is opportunity for kids and the trines that have been happening to Pluto. Keep in mind that there are squares that will be happening earlier in the week to Saturn. So there's also this sense of like, well, how much fun is too much fun? Because there can be a lot of fun and kind of partying going on in the 5th house. So a lot of that's kind of getting checked by, finances or, availability in terms of timing. So you're really being cautious about how quickly you're moving forward with investments, romantic projects, the topic of having kids, but still very positive nevertheless. And I think for those of you guys who are single, it's like an amazing transit for like meeting somebody and falling in love. Good luck, Aquarius. And we have got Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys will be experiencing the Mercury Cazimi. This will be taking place in Gemini in your natal 4th house. Obviously, like the other mutable signs, you may be experiencing some squares, so just be mindful to that. But a Cazimi is positive, and the fact that it's happening in your 4th house of home, while Jupiter, your chart ruler, is also present, to me it seems like it's really revolving around reconnecting with home or family. Some of you guys may notice or feel that you have like an urge to redecorate or reorganize things in your home or make changes to your home environment, specifically your kitchen. It may mean that a sibling or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle come over and they're helping you clean out a garage or reorganize things or move things around or move. The sun is the ruler, obviously, of your 6th house, so it does talk about work and service. So maybe you're helping a sibling doing that, or they're helping you. And if you're not moving, or if there's nothing like that going on, you just might feel like you need a change in your space. It can mean that you reconnect or you're hearing back from family members that you haven't heard from in a while. That's possible. And I think it's a really good time to focus on family relationships and emotional well-being, because Venus is in this house. It can be really sweet for connecting with your home and your family. You're also seeing earlier in the week that there were some squares to Saturn. And so maybe there's been a feeling of like, I'm dissatisfied with how the furniture looks, or, I don't like the way the lighting is in this room, or I want to completely redo the cabinets here. So when you have the Cazimi, there can be like this bright idea. And Mercury also relates to relationships and partnerships. So you can be getting feedback from roommates. You can be getting feedback from spouses and stuff about what's the best way to kind of open up a space and make it feel brighter or make it feel new. So there can be a bright idea, or just like a feeling of being like inspired and like wanting to kind of put it all together that particular day. Watch for unexpected communication and connection, or family that's reaching out. That can happen as well. And know that a lot of these things are squaring Neptune. So there can be a sense of being like, okay, I'm getting bombarded with lots of changes at home or on the home front with family. And there can be this sense of being a little unsure as to how to react or respond to that. So be mindful that that's in the mix for you a little bit as well. I hope that's helpful for you guys. I hope Mercury sprinkles his fairy dust all over the place and you guys get some really amazing, bright ideas, moments of just sheer luck and inspiration. Write all that stuff down. Really pay attention to just how much things kind of ebb and flow this week, because we're going to really feel the dynamic change pretty much from day to day. Make sure that you guys are subscribed. Hit the bell button below, because I am here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, bringing you guys the astro weather, the full moon reports, the new moon reports, horoscopes, and much, much more. We are also here every Friday doing live readings, so make sure you check that out. And let me know, where is this taking place in your chart? Are you born with a Cazimi? What is that like? And what synchronicities are you guys seeing as this kind of plays out later in this week? That's it for me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see all of you guys back here very soon. Take care.